So we're up to Siman Mem Beis Seif Gimel. What we did last time was we did the Mechaber. We didn't do any of the Mefarshim. Just to review the Mechaber says that if you have a tefillin case, so we'll talk about it. Is this a tefillin bag, tefillin case? This is a sudar, a bag that holds the tefillin. So the halacha is like this. Merely preparing it for that purpose is not enough to aser using it for anything other than tefillin. So if the fact that it's made for tefillin, the fact that you even purchased it with the intention to use it for tefillin is not enough to aser it. You need azmene and sarbe. You have to purchase it with that intention and actually use it. Fine. Now the Mishnah Berurah just points out in Seif Cont tes, hu adinamasa kismei chadash l'tzarech tefillin, gam kein enos l'shtamish bechol adit sarbe. Dazman alav milsi hu n'chol tashmish kedusha fil tikla Sefer Torah. This is not just tefillin. This is even the Sefer Torah case. If you were to buy a case for a Sefer Torah and you didn't end up using it yet, it does not have kedusha yet. However, the Mishnah Berurah says tashmish de tashmish ein ba kedusha klal, which is a good insight to know. Tashmish de tashmish does not have kedusha. Now that doesn't mean you can throw it in the trash. It doesn't mean you let him mavaza it, but it means you can use it for chol. Now what's a tashmish de tashmish? So you have, let's go l'kuli al chaldeus. The plastic that's around the tefillin case is for sure tashmish de tashmish. The tefillin is the kedusha. The first case is the tashmish kedusha, and the plastic is the tashmish of the tashmish. Now, there were some paiskim, I think Rosh Zalman, who wanted to argue that you could argue all tefillin bags are tashmish to tashmish because they have the hard plastic. The hard plastic is the tashmish. The tefillin velvet case is the tashmish did tashmish. The Minchas Laza disagrees because the Minchas Laza says our cases they expose, they cover the box, they cover the titura and the mabarta, but what they don't cover is the yud. And therefore he holds that the yud has a din of kedusha, in which case, and then dalit, exactly, so the yud and the dalit, they cover the shin, they don't cover the yud and the dalit, so that has a din of kedusha, which means the tefillin bags are the tashmish kedusha. Okay, so you could argue. The Mishnah Berurah then says, v'tik shel talis loy mikri tashmish kedusha, rak tashish mitzvah. Talis bags are not the same as tefillin bags. Talis is a mitzvah; it's not kedusha. Stam is kedusha. That's a mitzvah. A talis bag has a din of tashrish mitzvah, and therefore you could put chol in there. The after munach boy gam kein tikshel tefillin. It has the tefillin bag in it. Yeah, but the tefillin bag, the talis bag would not be more stringent than a tashmish to tashmish, which you're allowed to have chol in. We have a tikshel talis kiyim tashmish to tashmish. What about the fact you put your siddur in your talis bag? Right? The tefillin is kedusha. The tefillin bag is a tashmish kedusha. The talis bag, which holds the tefillin bag, is a tashmish dit tashmish. That's fine. What about the fact that you put the siddur directly into the tefillin bag? So that makes the talis bag. So you put the siddur in the talis bag. So that makes the talis bag tashmish of a siddur. So he says, "Yesh bekedusha ayat tefillin b'leitik be'ez hatzorich mutar litem betocha dvarim shachol to also mitchila gam l'talis davar shachol v'kili lehisna." He says it's a little bit better because it's not just that it's a tashmish of the siddur. He says it's made for a talis, which is really a beged shel chol. It's not even as much of a mitzvah, and therefore you could be makel le'esat tzarich even if you put the siddur directly in. This is when you did not make a t'nai originally. Then the Mishnah Berurah says, after Bedina also, he says, the people that put ordinary items into their talis bag, even though it's not appropriate, right, as we said, it's a tashmish, it's not a tashmish, it's a tashmish, it's a tashmish, and therefore it's not allowed. Why? Because Yerago Bekach, it's as if there was a Tanai. This is the heter that they bring down from Chaim Kanievsky. The Chaim Kanievsky, Halichas Chaim, brings down the same thing. That there's such a vart that because it's normal, then it's considered as if there's a Tanai. And Rav Chaim argued that nowadays it's understood that people will put things in the tefillin bags. They'll put a mirror, they'll put maybe a siddur, they'll put certain items, and therefore it's Ke'ilu there was a Tanai. Once there's a Tanai, it's allowed. Now, I will say this though, if you jump for a second, the Mishnah Berurah writes that Mechaber had said that also lemetzar bozuzi, that if you use it even once, then you're not allowed to put money in it, because once you set it aside and used it, it has a din of tashmish kedusha, which you're not allowed to put money in it. The Mishnah Berurah writes zuzi b'chol inin esukatan yud zayin. I'm sorry, in Tezayin. V'chein shar davar. Afilu davar sheish b'kedusha. By the way, it doesn't have to be money. It could even be, you're not even allowed to put a mezuzah in there because it's less kedusha than a tefillin. Then you look in Sifkat in Yud Zayin. Afilu asa akis l'shem tefillin v'gam tsar be'bekviyah shari kivan dehisna be'es asiyah she'yochel l'shanis k'sheyirtza. If you made a tanai, then you could put money in there. And even though right now you have the tefillin in there, you could put other items in. But a tashmish meguna you're not allowed to do. Meaning, so just understand, the tanai gives a permissibility of using it for inyane chol, not for inyane meguna. Meaning, someone wanted to put I would say even a cell phone. Putting a cell phone in a tefillin bag is not allowed, because it's a davar meguna to have that. Like a television, like mamish, lahal falfi avdals. So it's weird is that the Piskei Teshuvos brings down. He considers money as a davar meguna. I don't think that that's the mashmois of the mechaber. The mechaber says you're not allowed to put money in there because there's no tanai. But if there's a tanai, then there's a lot. This is the heter that a lot of shuls have. We happen to not do it here. But in Bergman Shul, they used to do it. I don't know, since the construction. They would take all the money from the pushka, they would keep it in the aron. Now, they wouldn't keep it on the same shelf as the Sefer Torah, on an under shelf, the shelf under it. Now, you could argue that the heter is that it's a shelf under it, but even that, it's in the aron. So what's the heter? The heter is, then they made it tanai, that they're allowed to use it for inyane chol, and money is inyane chol, especially money that's set aside for tzedakah, that's considered inyane chol. Now the Mishnah Berurah, the Ramah then said that klaf hama'ubed l'shem tefillin aster lichtal of divrei chol, meaning if you take a klaf, you didn't use it yet, but you set it aside for tefillin, you're not allowed to use it for anything else. You're not allowed to use it to write a letter. Why? Because the question is why. You told me before that setting it aside for tefillin is not enough. But now, so I was thinking about this last time. What's up, Shad? So the Mishnah Berurah says in Sifkat and Chav Gimel, after B'Sif Aleph, Kaimalon demoter l'shanes hashal roy shal haridim v'tushasai mitam da hazmana lav milsahi. Even though we said that hazmana is lav milsa, so why is it that you can't use the klaf for other things? Shani hasam da al kolpanam oisam behem kedusha ktsas. Aval hacha halei roitze la'asaf em davar chol. Over here, you're taking not just tashmish kedusha, you're taking the kedusha itself, and you want to use it for chol, that you can't do. If you wanted to take the inyane kedusha and you wanted to use it for something else that's also kaddish, then we would say that setting it aside is not enough. But setting it aside is significant enough to take it that you can't use it for mamish, davar bizayon, for chol mamish, that you're not allowed to do. So if you look in Sifkat and Chavav, just to end off, Azmene v'lo itzarbe, itzarbe lo azme shari l'meitze bezuzi. So the Mechaber said, if you didn't do both, if you didn't set it aside or you didn't use it, so let's say you use it but you didn't set it aside, or you set it aside you didn't use it, you could put money in there. Then the Mishnah Berurah says, Yesh oimrim, dahainu dehasudar loy niskadish ayidei shetzor b'ay pamachas b'li hazmana. Avol kol zman she'atfilin sham ein mederech kavod l'haniach yachad sham mos. Meaning, Mishnah Berurah, this is where they get it, maybe they get it from. Mishnah Berurah says, even though, let's say I buy a bag, but I didn't set it aside for tefillin. I thought it would be for seasons. I happen to put tefillin in there. So we said it's not kadosh. So the Mishnah Berurah, don't leave money in there at the same time. That's Mizan. It could be the heter nowadays with money is that it's money that it's set aside for tzedakah during davening. I don't think people keep their cash in their tefillin bag. So maybe that's a heter. I'm not sure. I will stop here.